let's talk about the properties of equality. So there are four main properties of equality that we're going to focus on today. There's the addition property of equality. This says that what we add to one side, we must add to the other. So if A is equal to B, then A plus C is equal to B plus C. So whatever we're doing to one side, we're doing to the other with all of these properties of equality. So the addition property of equality, we're adding to both sides. Then we have subtraction property of equality. With the subtraction property, we are subtracting from both sides. So if A is equal to B, then A minus C is equal to B minus C. Then we have the multiplication property of equality. With this one, we're multiplying to both sides. So if A is equal to B, then A times C is equal to B times C. Then we have the division property of equality. With this one, we divide on both sides. So if A is equal to B, then A divided by C is equal to B divided by C. All of this kind of boils down to whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. Let's look at some examples. So here we have a worked out algebra problem for us, and what we're going to do is we're going to justify each step using the properties of equality. So our first line is always going to be given to us, so that's just given. And then we're going to look between our first line and second line and try to figure out what they did to the first line to get the second line. So notice that on the left side, that plus 10 is no longer there. So they have subtracted 10 from both sides. So this is the subtraction property of equality. So then we have to figure out what they did to 15x equals 30 to turn it into x equals 2. They've divided both sides by 15. So this is the division property of equality. Let's look at another example. Here we're given 10x minus 2 equals 5x plus 8. Remember that first line is always given to us. Then we're going to look at that line and compare it to the next one and see what changed. So that 10x became a 5x, so they've subtracted 5x. So this is the subtraction property of equality. Okay, going to our next line. So we have 5x minus 2 on the left, and then that minus 2 goes away, and the 2 gets added, right? It gets added to both sides, so this is the addition property of equality. And then to get to our x equals 2, we are dividing both sides by 5, so this is the division property of equality. Let's look at one more example. Remember, our first line is always given to us. And then let's look to see what they did to create that 8x plus 6. So what they've done here is distribute. So they're using the distributive property. The distributive property is not one of our properties of equality, but it is another property that we can use. Right? And then they have subtracted out that 6 from both sides, so that is the subtraction property of equality. And then finally they have divided by 8, so this is the division property of equality.